Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Tougies Take podcast. For those of you watching in video form, there's absolutely nothing different going on at all. Absolutely nothing. It's a great time. We are back again, sans Mr. Sin for the win. Unfortunately, some computer issues right before Christmas. Gotta love that. Whenever stuff like that pops up. So unfortunately, this may be the last time, or last episode may be the last time that Sim was on the show this year. We'll have to wait and see what happens after the holiday. We might get him back on the show exactly before the new year. But Endo and I are here. Endo, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. It's been a wild week so far. With a lot of stuff happening. We'll get to it eventually. It's definitely gonna be a big talking point for the show today. But things are all right. They could be a lot worse, and fingers crossed that they keep going. How are you?
There you go. I'm doing good. You mentioned it. It's been an interesting couple of days.
Yeah.
In terms of this being a hockey podcast as well, admittedly, right up front, this episode might be a little bit more disjointed because we can't really follow our typical formula because everything's going wrong. We'll get into what hockey topics we can towards the end of the show. We'll talk about this weekend's events as well to be able to end things on a bit of a high note. So let's get down to business, as we always do at the start of this show. I do want to mention, of course, that this podcast, as it has been for the majority of its existence, is brought to you by our friends at Manscaped.com. Of course, Manscaped, the home of the lovely Performance Package 4.0, in which we were able to give one away this weekend as well. We'll talk more about that later on. Of course, you can use code Tougie at checkout for 20% off your order and free worldwide shipping. You may have missed out on some of their holiday specials, but I promise you, it doesn't matter what time of year you decide to get the best tools for the job. You won't regret it. Manscaped, the place for everything related to top-notch male grooming, whether it be that lovely Lawnmower 4.0, whether it be the Weed Whacker for the nose and the ear hair, even if it's down to just a simple pair of their boxers, which again are the best pair of boxers I own. I gotta be honest, top-notch. So again, use code Tougie at checkout if you visit Manscaped.com, 20% off your order, and free worldwide shipping awaits at Manscaped. Endo.
Hold on, before you go, I had a joke. You want to make sure that it's top. Your boxers are top notch, so you have the top crotch. Manscaped.
All right. Well, we have an episode title.
I almost choked on my Dr. Pepper. God. Now that's a doctor I can support.
God. Again, a great amount of appreciation towards our friends at Manscaped. In terms of this show, in terms of what's going on in the hockey world, let's be honest, again, we're still in the same spot that we were last week. If not, hey, things might be even looking a little bit worse. We will briefly touch up upon everything that's been going on, as we have had numerous games. Numerous games have been postponed at this point. Pretty much any team that would have required over the border travel between the U.S. and Canada, those have been postponed. A lot of teams have just been shut down until after the holiday. It's a mess. And look, all it really leads to is a bunch of different conversations, but generally the same discourse that I think we're all tired of having at the end of the day. You see someone like Ryan O'Reilly of the St. Louis Blues mention, "I'd like to see no testing unless you have symptoms." And a comment like that leads to a comment section that is nothing but, well, asymptomatic doesn't mean that you can't transmit, or not necessarily transmit, but doesn't necessarily mean that you can't pass on. The words escaping me right now, because again, this is a conversation I don't really want to have. That leads to the entire conversation of, well, just because you're asymptomatic doesn't mean that you can't pass it on. And then other people being like, oh, well, this, how long until we get back to real life? And we got to just move on. But that entire conversation, there was not a human being on the planet that is not tired of having it. I dare say, regardless of what side of the situation you end up on.
Yeah, 100%.
It's I'm sick of it. I'm sick of hearing about it, specifically the conversation, just in regards to what should be done, what shouldn't be done. I'm over it. You know, you talk about what the NHL should or shouldn't be doing now in terms of how to handle stuff like this. You talk about, again, it's basically all but confirmed that the NHL players will not be going to the Olympics, which means if it happens in 2026, it would have been 12 years in between NHL players being represented at the Winter Olympics, which is brutal. The Olympic stuff I'm not surprised at. The arguing and bickering and all that crap in relation to what the NHL should do in regards to COVID. And no, I'm just over it. We still have to at least allude towards it, because how can we not mention it when we've had, I believe, 41 games postponed?
Yeah.
I think it's 41 games. 43, according to NHL.com, because the Devils and Penguins were postponed this afternoon. Right. 43 NHL games have been postponed. We can't not mention it, no matter how sick all of us might be of having this conversation.
We got to talk about it. It's something that's affecting not only the NHL, but just not only hockey itself, but the whole entire world at this point. Well, at least North America majorly with all those.
Yeah, and literally 55 seconds ago, NHL Public Relations on Twitter puts out that the Kraken Coyotes game has been postponed as well. So, I mean, it's literally a continuing, ongoing set of circumstances here that there's really no other conversation to have about it, aside from just acknowledging, like, hey, yeah, the NHL has a decision to make. How are they going to handle things moving forward? Will taxi squads come back? Will it be, okay, well, you're asymptomatic, but you're vaccinated, we'll let you play. In terms of what might happen, there is a discussion to be had. I don't want to have that discussion.
Yeah, it's fair.
Flat out. I'm tired of it. I'm sick of it. This all sucks. We all want everything to get back to as close to normal as possible, because let's be honest, I feel like our normal has changed for the long run here. If not permanently, we'll see. And again, that's why we don't want to have that conversation. Yeah. But in the hockey topics that we are going to cover today, because we're not going to go day by day like we normally do, because I don't want to be like, okay, and this game happened, and these three were postponed, but then this game happened. That's not fun either. But arguably the biggest talking point in hockey outside of everything that's going on would be Paul Maurice of the Winnipeg Jets stepping down as head coach. And this was a quote here. "This is a good team. I'm a good coach. But sometimes you can only push so far. Sometimes the team needs a new voice. They haven't quit on me, but they need a different voice. It's the right time for it, and I know that." This was completely out of nowhere. Completely out of left field. And obviously, like, some people might want to read between the lines as to whether or not, you know, maybe he just doesn't want to deal with everything that's, you know, the extra hurdles that he and none of us signed up for, or if it's just true, if he feels like he has gone as far as he can as Jets head coach. I mean, he has been the head coach. This was his 9th season as the head coach of the Winnipeg Jets. He's been there since day one. Has he not? Well, maybe not since day one. I think he started, Claude Noel was before him, but he was, I think, as what, the 2014? I think the beginning of 2014 was when he was hired, which that is a long, long time.
He's been around for a long time. I think he's like one of the most, I think at one point he was like the longest tenured coach for like a team in a while.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm actually looking up right now. I want to see who okay, so right now, longest tenured head coaches. There are 3, actually, well, yeah, I mean, God, longest tenured head coach right now in the NHL is John Cooper, who was hired in March of 2013. Maurice was hired January of 2014, so he was the second longest tenured head coach in the NHL right now. The other ones are interesting. The current second place is Jeff Blashill of the Detroit Red Wings.
Damn.
He has been there for that entire down period. God bless him. And then Mike Sullivan has been with the Pittsburgh Penguins since December of 2015. Jared Bednar with the Avs since August of 2016, and then Bruce Cassidy with the Bruins since February of 2017. Those are the 5 longest tenured head coaches. So we have 5 guys who have been with their team for more than 3.5 years. Like someone like Paul Maurice, it was a rarity for him to be around for that long. He is a great coach. I am sure he will find a new place to go, but just the idea of a coach just being like, my work here is done. There's nothing more I can do with this team. And it's interesting because last year we had all the conversations surrounding the Jets, what had happened with Patrick Laine, questions over the leadership styles and tactics used by Blake Wheeler and Mark Scheifele. It makes you wonder what's next for the Jets. Right now, interim head coach Dave Lowry, who has never been a full-on head coach at the NHL level. He has been an assistant coach in the NHL since June of 2009 when he was with the Calgary Flames. So, maybe he'll get a chance. We've seen that a couple of times already. Former players stepping in, becoming interim coaches, and being like, "Oh yeah, hey, let's stick with this guy." So maybe, just maybe. And I mean, it's interesting enough too, right? That his son Adam is on the team.
Right, I completely forgot about that.
But I mean, for Paul Maurice, there's not too much to say. He's a great coach. If he wants to find work, I think he will. Mm-hmm. It's just very intriguing for someone in his situation to actively step down without any sort of controversy around it.
That's
the Jets. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say that's a situation where I think a coach knows when the limit is for a certain team or a certain mentality, because after a certain while you kind of you're kind of frustrated internally when you know the guys are performing, but you feel like yourself aren't performing at the same caliber that you think you should be at. And I think that's a good it's a really because this doesn't happen before. Like a coach actively being like, you know what? These guys can go
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time. I'm sure it's happened, but I cannot remember the last time this happened.
Exactly. It's very, very interesting, definitely.
You have a Jets team that is currently on the fringe of a playoff spot. Obviously, we still have a long way to go this season. You have a team that's obviously been in somewhat rebuilding mode, right? Like there was the conference final run, but you talk about Bufflin and Trouba and Tyler Myers and a good portion of that core that's moved on. Some of them, of course, still there with the likes of Wheeler and Scheifele.
Right.
It's intriguing to see what's next, but it was definitely just a shocking move. And again, you look at what it means for the Jets. They did win their first game after his departure. I could still see them making the playoffs. And again, Paul Maurice is only 54 years old, but this is a guy who at age 28 got his first NHL assistant coaching job with the Hartford Whalers.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's been around for a while. Like a very long time. If he's 50, we said 58, right? Or whatever.
Yeah, dude, he has been a head coach for longer in the NHL for longer than you've been alive.
Thanks. I mean, yeah.
Like he was named head coach of the Whalers in November of 95. And then went on to, coach the Carolina Hurricanes. Right. Made a Stanley Cup final appearance in that time. Coached the Toronto Maple Leafs. Very much did not make a Stanley Cup final appearance in that time.
Yeah.
Coached the Hurricanes again, which I feel like we don't talk about enough. Like he was with the Whalers, stuck with them when they transitioned to Carolina and then came back. Very weird. And then, was with the Jets for 7 years, just under 8 full years as head coach of the team. So I'm intrigued to see what happens next for both parties, but that was just stunning. And it's one of those things where it's like, how can you dissect that even more and really talk about it in depth, where it's just like, hey, it's a respectable move on his part, and yeah, God, it's very, very weird.
Yeah, definitely. I think that that organization is gonna want him to come back at any time. Like, I feel like the door's gonna be wide open for him to come back in any sort of form, even just as advisory. Because I read reports as well that they really like him there. Like the organization, the city, everyone just he's just a stand-up guy. And what do you mean? Like the guy put his life on the line basically for that team for how long? And knowing when to call it quits is definitely, I want to say admirable, because some people just kind of run it down the train or just know they're out and they just keep going. Example, Mike Babcock. Yeah.
Our next topic, and I'll mention this really here, this quickly here too. Obviously, had I opened it up to viewer questions today, which I didn't, we'll do that on the next show. A lot of it would have been in relation to, hey, what about the World Juniors? Those are supposed to start, of course, the day after Christmas on the 26th, this Sunday. We'll talk about the World Juniors on the next show. I think it'll be worth, kind of waiting to see how the things go over the next couple of days.
Yeah.
And then we'll take a look at the squads. I mean, I'm excited for the tournament. Again, running through the 26th up to January 5th. It's going to be a fun tournament to watch, as it always is. We'll break things down a little bit more on the next show. Let's talk about the Department of Player Safety again, huh?
Oh, my God.
So, first and foremost, some of the news we didn't talk about or didn't get a chance to talk about. Shout out to Jason Spezza, whose suspension was reduced from 6 games to 4.
There you go.
Which, again, you could argue, we had the debate over Jason Spezza and what he did. His lack of history versus what he did was brutal. 4 games, though, is now the official ruling for Jason Spezza for what he did. Tucker Pullman got 2 games for swinging his stick at somebody's head, and Brett Connolly was just suspended 4 games for his hit on Tanner Caro of the Dallas Stars. Now, I've talked about this every time we've discussed the suspension. Does the intent or not? Intent is factored in. But if someone didn't intend to seriously hurt somebody, but they still did, well, hey, guess what? You're still going to serve some time for that.
Yeah, you can go give contact on someone, but if they get hurt during that play, it's a physical game. I'm not going to say just don't hit someone or just, be lay off. Finish your check, but if that check ends up giving someone some sort of injury whatsoever, then there should be some sort of repercussion for it.
So, see, I think some people would counterpoint that and just be like, oh, well, if someone ends up being hurt, you can get hurt from a clean check.
Yeah.
And I get that.
I mean, if there's
Brett Connolly,
contact with the head and what I'm referring to.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah. And I mean, right. God, especially the Spezza play, was just, again, I still say if Tom Wilson did what Jason Spezza did on that play, and he was suspended for less than Rafi Torres' 41 game length suspension, people would be losing their minds. But that, of course, brings you to the Department of Player Safety, the inconsistency this year. And, I'm not going to say 4 games is unrealistic for Connolly, who doesn't have a history. He literally now has the same amount of games as Jason Spezza, both without histories. Connolly absolutely blew up Tanner Caro.
Yep.
You look at the play, and it looked like Connolly expected the defender to pass it to Caro, where instead he chipped it off the glass to get it out of the zone, so Caro was never even near the puck when he got completely lit up. For Connolly, it's an NHL veteran that's been playing down in the AHL. Mm-hmm. He gets a chance, wants to, I'm sure, play a good physical game and prove, hey, I should still be up here. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, he jumped the gun a little bit and made a bad read. It's just, I think it's reasonable to the standard that they've set this season, that 4 games make sense, but it still brings it into question. Is it fair to compare incidents? Is it fair to compare this to Spezza?
Right.
Which one was worse? I'd say the Spezza hit was worse. Spezza knew exactly what the hell he was doing. That was a revenge hit. Whereas Connolly, was going for this. Gotta love dropping the AirPods on the floor, by the way. No, I'm not flexing the AirPods. I don't know. 4 games, I think, is fine, but I just look back to other examples this year and can only say it just feels like they spun the wheel again. They're consistently inconsistent.
Yeah, that's basically it. Consistently consistent. You have one ruling, and then which should be the same ruling for another. It's a different ruling. And I don't know when like players are going to start revolting against DOPS, because this is getting really bad. Like, it's always bad, but like now it's just getting like out of hand. I'd thought that maybe after giving out the 6 games for what was it, Spezza, that would have been like okay, here's the bar. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna set it up that way. Then it gets appealed, and then all this happens, and now it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's been an issue. It's been an issue all season long, and I'm sure it will continue to be. Other quick little talking points here, since we're not going to do the game by game, the day by day. The Vancouver Canucks won 6 in a row under Bruce Boudreau. And the stat that I saw out of this, 43% of the Canucks wins have been under Bruce Boudreau so far this season. 43% of their wins, 6 of them six wins accounts for 43% of their total victories on the season so far. You talk about Paul Maurice and kind of knowing when it was the right time to be like, we're done here. Boy, if only the Canucks had made that choice a little bit sooner with Travis Green. Not that anyone expected Travis Green to step down. It's not necessarily his decision or, his responsibility to make that call. Right. But, oof is all I can say to that particular stat line.
Yeah, I know. I think I've said this before on the podcast, but that game when he walked down when the jersey got thrown on the ice and he already walked down like through the tunnel to go back to the dressing room before the game was over. Mm-hmm. That was the moment you knew you were fired, no matter what. You could say that you quit. You could do that, but that was the moment you knew you were fired.
And you look at the playoff situation right now involving the Pacific Division. I mean, the Canucks, they're 6 points back of the Flames. The Flames do have 3 games at hand.
Right.
But, I mean, theoretically, like, the Canucks aren't completely boned if they keep up this pace. It's close. They do have to keep up this pace. But it's not totally out of the realm of possibility that they can fight their way back into a playoff spot. The only teams that coincidentally I view as being out of it right now, I mean, Chicago is 4 points back of Vancouver. Chicago does have a game at hand, but that means the Blackhawks are already 10 points back of a wild card spot. That's going to be tough to recover from.
Yeah.
Wouldn't hold my breath on that. Seattle right now are 13 points behind the Oilers for that second wild card spot, and the Oilers have a game at hand. The Kraken aren't making the playoffs. Not even talking about a Stanley Cup, like, mythical, magical, Vegas-esque cup run.
Yeah.
They're not even making the playoffs. And, again, and by we, I mean me, I had the Kraken doing quite well this year. I think, again, you look at that team on paper, they are much, much better than 23 points through 30 games. I don't know if it's a coaching issue, which everyone kind of shook their head at Dave Haxtell. I mean, nobody could have expected, to date, 23 games and an 882 for Philip Grubauer.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not as good as he was in Colorado, but an 882. I mean, again, especially behind the defense that doesn't look that bad on paper. It's been a rough year for them, and by design, based off of what Ron Francis set up for that team. And then the Coyotes are in the toilet right now, as by design. So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
It really boggles the mind because both goalies that are playing for Seattle, Grubauer and Dreger, came from teams that are like defensively strong, like Florida and with Colorado. And then you look on paper with that team that they have over there in Seattle, and you'd expect the same thing to carry out, but I guess it's just a different system that they're playing. And that can throw off a goaltender's rhythm completely 100% of the time, because your D guys are your best buddies. They're basically your best man, and every game's basically your wedding, and they need to have your back. And when you don't have that on night in, night out, it can mess with you. To drop down basically almost like a full, like half, like 100% for a save percentage during this like new like regimen with the new group, it's rough. I guarantee that I believe Seattle shut down as well, right?
I think they are. Okay. Yeah.
I hope that after this break right here and they go back home with their families after they get the clearance to go back, they can retool after, because that's the same thing that happened with St. Louis last year, where they basically had the break, retooled, not last year, but when they won the cup, retooled and go on this massive run. I'm not saying they're going to go to a massive run because that was unprecedented completely, but anything's possible with hockey. Maybe they could squeeze in a wild card spot, or they could be like just on the cusp. But they need to be more competitive night in, night out. And I think it's with Dreger and Grubauer getting a little more rest over the next week or two. That's the one thing that I do like, that some teams are getting closed down. It gives them more time to rest and more time to recuperate any injuries that they have. I mean, Marner's already back on the ice with the Leafs doing slap shots during that time, so maybe his recovery can speed up a little bit faster. More off ice stuff. I think it's good overall for obviously the reason we already talked about, but maybe just in a morality sense to just kind of relax, get it going, and get ready for the second half of the season.
There were a couple of other cool little moments I at least wanted to acknowledge over the past few days. You had Robin Lehner's return to Long Island, which was really nice to see. And it might be the loudest ovation that arena's heard so far for anything related to the Islanders, because oof.
Yeah.
But it's been rough for them in UBS Arena so far. You had Garrett Sparks winning his first NHL game in over 2 years.
Yeah.
For the Los Angeles Kings.
Yeah, I watched
that.
Yeah. I watched the press conference afterwards through Bally Sports, because Carlin Baith, noted EA NHL voice lady who you can't turn off in NHL 22, post a video about his press conference afterwards, and he was emotional. Guys went through the ringer, having to sign ECHL deals with Orlando, which was the feeder for the Toronto Maple Leafs at the one time. Then going to Calgary, then going to now to LA, and getting a call up basically the morning before the game saying, "Oh, 1 o'clock, your flight's over there." Hopping commercial flight, heading over to the facility and getting the start. That's huge, and that's basically him. It's basically a reassurance for that guy to say that, "Oh, I can still do this." To think that a year ago he was playing in ECHL, making $600 a week, to basically getting paid minimum like NHL salary to go play over in the NHL again. And he did mention as well during that that he got a concussion during his rookie season with Toronto with the Leafs, and he said that after that was a giant spiral. And it's another thing that I want to talk about too, is mental health and mental awareness is definitely something that is prevalent. And I'm glad that guys like Robin Lehner and I guess now Garrett Sparks are open about that and saying that something happened to me, I wasn't okay, and it's okay to not be okay, and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, and I mean, it's interesting too, right? Because I'm looking on Elite Prospects, and you know, that game was, God, I mean, basically his prior game, like the AHL season for him in Ontario hasn't been going well.
Yeah, he lost the last.
So it's almost, we've seen a couple instances of guys coming up from the A, and then they just put on these great performances at the NHL level, but. You know, it's going to be one of those what ifs. I think unfortunately in Leafs history, there's a lot of what ifs in terms of some of these guys that maybe could have stepped up to the NHL level. I mean, again, he was AHL goalie of the year in that 2018 Calder Cup run for the Marlies. Yeah. So, I mean, again, that was a great moment. You had Dylan Larkin getting his first career hat trick for the Detroit Red Wings, which shocked me that Dylan Larkin doesn't have a hat trick in his career yet. Yeah. But
something funny about that, actually, something that came out recently, I saw it today. He knocked over someone's beer behind the net, knocked it over, and then went to the coach, the training dressing room coach, said like, "Hey, give him a 20 because I dropped the beer." And I think that might just be his new pregame thing, just to knock over someone's beer. Give him a 20 so he can get a hattie. Absolute great captain, great leader in the locker room. I'm glad he was able to finally get a hat trick.
It's the season of giving, I do suppose.
Definitely.
And then in other news, shout out to the Arizona Coyotes who paid their debts. It's official. They will not be getting locked out of the Gila River Arena. They'll be allowed to stay. So, yeah, congrats to the Coyotes for not having to face the worst case of, scenario of playing the back half of their season in a freaking gym, essentially.
Yeah, they would be. Would they? I think their backup plan was to go play with ASU in their facility that's brand new. Which I think is it's hilarious that ASU borrowed from the Yotes for a bit, and now we just have to go pay back their favor.
Yeah, so that was some of the cool stuff that's gone on around the league over the past few days. Again, there's not a ton to talk about. Like, you have the one very much dominating headline and story that's currently, that's currently taking over all of the headlines and the news. Yeah. But aside from some of those, then, I wanted to take a good amount of time on this show to talk about the events of this weekend. Because for those of you who are watching on video form, you have been staring at my bald head for the last half an hour. Which means we did it. We did it, everybody. We did it. This past weekend, the goal from this Saturday was pretty simple. Raise $10,000 for the American Cancer Society. And somehow, some way, we did that in roughly 10 hours.
Yeah, that was
as insane as that is. And I'm glad Endo is here specifically, because Endo was with me, in a Discord call for a good portion of that stream on Saturday. And it's just, it was a hell of a day that still almost doesn't even kind of feel real in the aftermath of it. We 2 weeks before the event, I checked my email, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, are you interested in hosting a charity event through, a company called Soft Giving? And it's like, I'll entertain this. Like, I'll be honest, and I think a lot of other content creators can tell you, like, if you check your email almost daily, there's offers for stuff like this, and then you check the email, and it's like, I've seen kids' crayon drawings look more professional than this.
Oh my god,
it's a common thing. So I'm like, this one looks at least legit. Let's entertain it. And then the idea for the stream came together very, very quickly. So as I said on Twitter and Instagram in the aftermath of this, like a big shout out to Soft Giving. They were phenomenal to work with and to help organize this, and the way that they set up what they do is incredibly, I'll use the word intuitive, but just quick and easy. They're great to work with. So I was happy to be able to do that. And then you get into talking about the people that helped kind of make the event what it was, Endo included. We had over a dozen giveaways scheduled. Soft Giving themselves giving up what was a gaming headset and I think a $20 Steam gift card, which good friend of the show, Mr. Monkey Dude, actually ended up winning, which was great because Monk was awesome in terms of donating. He really helped me kind of stay focused during the stream. We had some extra challenges thrown in there. Like, I was planning on being on NHL 22 the whole time, but for anybody that's watched on Twitch, you know that we've had a history of playing GeoGuessr. I do love me some GeoGuessr. There have been some incredible memes to come out of GeoGuessr. Some of my favorite streams have been us, whether on FIFA or EASHL, just the idea of playing club. While we sit there in the dressing room and wait 6 hours to get a match, play some GeoGuessr. It's the best. And, he proposed the idea of, $50 if you can get to within, I think it was 100 yards or something like that. Yeah. Like, basically pretty much get it right on the dot. And, twice we were able to do that. Both times he proposed that challenge. So shout out to Brisbane, Australia and Glasgow, Scotland for helping me be able to find these locations dead on and contributing at least an extra $100 there to charity. Manscaped, of course, they've been great. They helped put up one of the performance packages up there as well. It was great to give that away. And again, I talk about Manscaped and being appreciative for them. Like, they did not have to stay on with this show when we underwent changes. Right. And, you know, in relation to that, and I'll say this because we're coming up on the end of the year, I've been very reflective as of late in my personal life. That change and bringing Endo onto the show and then Sin onto the show and moving on from what it was not easy. It was not exactly how I thought things were going to go. There was a difference in opinion on what direction to take with the show, and unfortunately, there was no negotiating that. There was no compromise. It was, I have this vision, Deej had that vision, and unfortunately, you know, it led to that split, which sucks and is probably one of the low points of the year for me. But seeing how Endo has fit onto this show and how Sin has fit onto this show, and then seeing Manscaped just be like, hey, you know, we could sit here and dock how much, you know, like we don't get paid a crap load for the sponsorship, but enough to really keep the lights on, which is great. And Manscaped, flat out, they could have said, you're essentially rebuilding, we're out of here. Yeah. But no, they stuck with us. And for that, I'm so damn appreciative. And to be able to contact them and be like, hey, I'm doing this charity idea. And they're like, yeah, hey, what can we give you? Anything you want. Awesome company to work with. And I thank them tremendously. You had Clappy behind the scenes, the Clapperton with EA NHL. Just, again, I'm like, hey, can you help out in any way? Here's a crap load of codes. And we were able to give away a crap load of codes.
There was a lot of codes. It was ridiculous.
I think it was 30 in total.
Yeah.
Between Xbox, PlayStation. Like, again, like I can't thank Clappy enough either for helping with that. The team behind Franchise Hockey Manager, I've been really fortunate to have a great relationship with them for a couple of years now, and to be able to try and shine as much of a spotlight on that series as I can, even if, thanks to roster sharing being added to NHL 22, I haven't been able to play that game on stream or on, you know, make YouTube videos for it as much as I'd like to. They're still great. They gave us codes for that, and Out of the Park Baseball 22, which is another phenomenal game. Endo, originally you were going to give up one jersey. I think you ended up giving up two.
Yeah, so I gave up a I can actually show you right now. It's right over here. So first one I gave up was the famed Matt Duchene jersey that Tougie gave me after I gave him the Spider Habs. And then the second one was a jersey that I got from Crash Andrews because we did a little barter. I had to fill up on that too.
Here, go grab what you're going to grab, and I'll hype up Crash as well, because Crash was also great on this particular stream. I mean, again, offering jerseys, offering a hockey card package as well, which there was some, I mean, we're not just talking like the average, like, oh yeah, the Upper Deck full collection. Like, Crash was great with offering great stuff. Again, that would be twitch.tv/Crash Andrews, as Endo presents the other jersey he was willing to give up, which was, number one, the Rangers' best jersey ever. Yeah. It's their dark blue alternate from around 2010, a Rick Nash, which I want that jersey myself. Although I do have a Lundqvist in that style, but
I'm jealous.
God, I mean, and that just kind of goes to show, like, throughout the stream as well, Endo benefited from this. Shout out to my good friend, Mr. Tactics HD, randomly just being like, hey, here's a Battlefield code. Guess who ended up with the Battlefield code?
I scooped that shit up super quick. I had it's almost as if I had that Microsoft redeem code button on like a hotkey because I was gone. It was gone.
I thought it was, I thought that was great. To the New Jersey Devil, the mascot of the Devils. He was able to give away some shirts, which was great. And again, I always call him Mr. GTAC 13 jerseys. He was able to give away some jerseys. Shithawks jerseys as well. Was able to give away a nifty little Johnny Gaudreau Flames jersey. I mentioned Monkey Dude. He gave away a bunch of game codes, whether for Steam or Xbox. Cool Hockey. They came in clutch with a gift card as well to give away. And again, we've personally gone through Cool Hockey many times to get the jersey hookup. They're another great a great outlet to support. And again, of course, I did give up that infamous Montreal jersey, the Spider Habs. For anybody who isn't watching the video form, Starter, the brand Starter, came out with quote unquote fashion jerseys in the 90s. These are monstrosities. And this is arguably the best / worst. It almost looks like the cover of a Van Halen album.
Oh my God.
It's ridiculous. And we're giving that away. I got to ship that out hopefully this week. Honestly, might have to wait until after the holiday boom because Jesus.
As you say that, another thing I want to talk about fashion jerseys real quick. Have you seen the stuff that Sherwood's been doing?
No.
Okay, so first Sherwood had the Tim Staple designs and all that, and everyone kept tagging me because the kid in that thing was black, and I'm like, oh, it's Endo, and he has long hair. I'm like, thanks, guys. But he recently did something with OVO, and like you'd get like Drake branded like because OVO is the brand, and you get that branded, and they had like a puck, and like on top of the puck, it was gold plated.
Gold plated.
Yeah, you heard me. Gold plated. It was a gold plated puck. If you look up like Sherwood OVO, the stuff is super clean, and I'm concerned that Sherwood, like I've always used Sherwood sticks. I find them, I like them the best. Canadian Tire Hockey, by the way, amazing. And I feel like they could turn into a brand that's just like fashion hockey. Because they're selling a goalie mask on there, coveted mask, great quality mask for $5,000. I can tell you, I have a brand new mask that's like 1,000. This is Canadian, like 1,000 Canadian for like a brand new NHL spec mask. Who's gonna pay 5,000? You're better off,
dude. Let's be honest. There are some douches at Beer League who would love to be able to flex.
And the thing is, though, it's like blue. It's like a dark blue. So like I looked at it and I'm like, I could use this for my set because my sets are like all blue and white. But I don't have $5,000 on me that I can just offload. Oh man, that's hilarious. But back to the charity stuff.
Yeah, as God, I don't even know. I don't even know what my voice just did there, but it's fine. Yeah. It's like Howard D. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh God. And then there was the man himself, Mr. Chris Rumble, which again I said on Twitter and Instagram in a post the day after. This whole idea of the hunt for Rumble started in like NHL 17. We had done the first ever Draft to Glory franchise with the Caps. And the legends of that series, if I'm not mistaken, it might have been a combination of the series I had done that year. But the idea was I had loaded into Hut, and people said, oh, make a team out of guys like Nolan Patrick and Chris Rumble. And there was a dude who played for the Victoriaville Tigers. I think his name was Andrew Smith. He was like 6'8". And it was build a Hut team out of those guys and use the team. And I'm like, okay, cool. And we went to find Chris's card. Didn't exist. Okay, cool. Let me open up some silver packs and see what happens. 3 months later, and who knows how much time and money spent, we finally packed him. And it was delightful. And then we decided to do it again the next year. Now, I don't know if it was the NHL 17 or 18 version that Chris saw, but he saw it, died laughing, showed it to his teammates, died laughing, but didn't just leave it at that. Like, he could have, and just like, look at this goof on the internet. And it's fine, because that's what most people do. Oh, look at this goof on the internet, and it's perfectly cool. I know, bald head and all. But no, instead, like, he embraced it. And we kept doing it year after year. And then last year was the year where I'm like, let's make this a charity stream. It makes all the sense in the world. And I am happy to say we don't have a date yet. Chris will be on this podcast.
Can't wait. And
I'd love to hear the story from him one of these days. But, you know, he grows up playing hockey. And then as a teenager, he ends up with cancer, like just flat out. Like, he ends up at the Seattle Children's Hospital, which is one of, if not the top facility in relation to cases like this. And he fucking made it. and then still goes on to have this hockey career. And again, like you talk about the interview potential, like I want to understand, like, you know, the career decisions, because I'm sure he could be still an ECHL, AHL caliber defenseman, but instead he's like, I'm going to go play in Norway. I'm going to go play in Austria. Like, he's been all over the place, and that sounds awesome to me. And I can't wait to be able to ask him about that on the show.
Yeah.
But so it's like last year to be able to turn it into a charity stream and raise money for a cause so close to him. We had some complications, admittedly, getting some of the prizes out there because, hey, guess what? None of us knew how fucked up the COVID situation was going to be. And he was in Norway at the time. And you know how difficult it was to try and ship a hockey stick from Norway to another country during COVID? Whew.
Yeah.
Very difficult. But, you know, then we go into this year. And I messaged him, and I'm like, hey, you know, hope you're doing well. We're doing this again. You don't have to give away anything. And he comes in clutch, giving away team merch for the club he's currently playing with in Austria, giving away jerseys. And again, like, it's so interesting to me that, like, look, at the end of the day, is this an NHL caliber player? No. But still, this is a professional hockey player who could have just been like, this is fucking dumb. But no, instead he embraces it, and we've turned it into raising almost $20,000 for cancer-related charities in the past 2 years. And really in the past 13 months. It's incredible. Like, it's one of those things where, you know, you ask me at the start of this YouTube Twitch journey, like, hey, this is going to happen. I'd be like, that's fucking weird. And no, it's not. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, how does this possibly become a thing? And before talking about more of the event as well, I do also want to shout out our good buddy Tymo, at Baker and Tymo, Tymo, on Twitter. You can also find him on Twitch at the Baker and Tymo Show, who, you know, for free was able to get a lot of graphic stuff done that I needed to get done. Like, there were a lot of people who helped make this the success that it was. And then we get in to the stream itself. Horrible idea to say I would change jerseys for $5, because my God, we had to change jerseys so many times, and eventually I just lost track of it. That was awful. I'll never do that part again.
Oh my God, it was bad.
If people donated $10, one bean from the old box of Bean Boozled, I said it 1,000 times on stream. I thought people were just playing it up. I thought they were acting for the reaction. No. Those things are legitimately that bad. I don't recommend eating as many as I did for the sake of charity. I won't go into details, but took a day or so for my stomach health to kind of get back to normal. That was a fun time. But hey, it was for charity. God, we were going to have that Team Tougie versus Team Twitch chat idea as the backup, and we never had to get to it. Yeah. We had to do that again at some point.
So how does that work for people who don't understand, like, the concept?
So basically the idea was, if we packed Rumble super early on, I would just create, like, say Deke, twitch.tv/DekeSlayer, donated the money to be added in. I'd make his own created player, and we'd sort of have like an all-star squad versus all-star squad, or I'd run a franchise mode real quick with that. Basically, it was just an idea to have a backup plan for what to do in case we packed him early. Yeah. Because obviously the idea for the Hunt for Rumble is to open those packs to try and get him, which we never did, by the way. So that was just the idea behind that. Maybe as dumb of an idea as 5 minutes of ASMR, because Endo and I got to do the ASMR hour. That was like a fever dream.
I felt bad for you halfway through, because you're just sitting there. And I took a nap originally, and I go back to look at what he's doing. He's just there, just like, yeah, now we're building bags and we're doing this. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing? What is he doing? So I get in the call. I was like, hey, buddy, how's it going? And then we just get there for a while. And then I think the highlight of it was, there's a streamer in the community called Josh Fearless. Check him out. He plays a lot of competitive Hut, and he's had some moments on stream where he's freaked out and like broke his chair and stuff like that. So I go, I just go like, I'm gonna have a Josh Fearless freak out ASMR real quick, and then I just go silent for like 2 minutes, like 30 seconds, And then Tuga's like, "Are you okay?" And I just slammed my desk.
It was a fun time. It's ridiculous.
It was a lot of fun.
God, we ended up with some new Twitch emotes that were hilarious as well because of some of the donos, and then
The Rumble dollar's the best.
yeah, God. And then at the end, you know, we start hitting some of those milestones. We streamed from about 2 p.m. Eastern to about 7:30. In that time, we hit the halfway point of $5,000. It was $5,005 as I ended the first half of the stream, which does lock in the Return of a Hut series to the YouTube side of things for however long as I can mentally handle it, which we'll see. But, you know, I went and grabbed something to eat, sat down, talked to the girlfriend for a bit, and it was like, man, I you know, we have a big group chat up as everybody does, and I had messaged people in there, and it's just like, I'm having a hard time if it was just 5K focusing on that. You know, like 5K for charity is still, that's not nothing, you know? Especially for me where, look, I've had some people, honestly, in the aftermath of the roster sharing thing, just be like, you don't know how to take criticism and it's going to hold you back. There were some comments like that, which was funny because the end of the day, like I've been doing this for like 5 or 6 years now.
Right.
And I have accomplished more in that time than most people ever will on YouTube or Twitch. If you think about the amount of people that try to make something happen like that. And I've said as much about the Twitch community side of it, especially. The idea of being one of those gigantic streamers, like if I go look right now, we'll throw out XQC,
Oh my God.
for
That's
example,
number
as one of the gigantic channels. Anybody behind a channel of that size, odds are you do not have a relatively close relationship with the people in your chat because your chat goes by, even on slow mode, so fucking fast that there's just no way. Like, all you essentially see is a username and equate it to dollars, and that's it, unless you really put in the effort. For someone of my, you know, size on Twitch, like, I get to see the same people every day. I know stuff about every single person from the conversations. It's fucking awesome. It is legitimate. It's legitimately a community. And I've mentioned this YouTuber before, but as someone who's watched the Happy Console Gamer, who has a gaming channel, he lives out in Vancouver. Great channel. Again, I've been following him for a decade now, if not more.
Right.
You know, he kind of instilled it when his channel was growing. The idea of him being able to recognize that already he was getting to the point where he was having trouble keeping that same sense of community, and it disappointed him. Sure, the extra money's nice, but there is a sacrifice that ultimately is made in relation to getting paid more on something like YouTube or Twitch, and that is you lose a bit of that sense of community. So I love that I'm at that point where I have that. And continuing on with that, I am also now the proud owner of a Carey Price Habs jersey that is in the mail.
There you go.
For us hitting 7.5K. And we hit 7.5K because that night, as I'm talking to my girlfriend, I'm like, I can't be happy with 5K. I want to hit 10 so badly. So we came back at about 10:30. And slow and steady again. Because through that first half, the first part, we were at about 1K an hour for the first 3 hours or so. And then it started to dip, but we still got the 5K. And then we come back, and within an hour, 6K. And then we started getting closer to 7. And when we hit 7, Endo again was in this chat. We actually edited the Twitch stream to put him on the call. It was fun as hell.
The frame.
Once we hit 7, we roll, we spin the wheel. We get the giveaway from Monkey Dude for the game codes. Before I can even do that official giveaway, we hit 7.5K. Holy shit.
Yeah.
And then we hit 8K less than a minute later, or a few minutes later. And before we know it, within an hour, we went from 7K to hitting that 10K goal.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
A gigantic shout out especially to two people, which Chris, again, the top donator prize was going to be an autographed Rumble jersey from Black Wings Linz in the Austrian League, also known as Ice. And, well, there were a lot of people that donated multiple, literally hundreds of dollars to Emperor Fun and Big Nate, who both donated at least $2,500 each.
I think the best.
They're both getting a jersey, by the way, for that, because holy shit.
There's one thing I love about the whole situation is that they were basically kind of like outbid each other to the point that
it was like $20 increments or something.
Big Nate had $1 up on Emperor so he would get the jersey. I think that's hilarious. I think it's amazing that all this competitiveness and wanting to get that jersey would go to a great cause. And now they're both gonna get one, correct?
Yes, yes. And I will say, like, I was hesitant to name them specifically on like Twitter and Instagram because I'm like, I don't want people bugging them.
Yeah.
I don't want people thinking if they do a charity stream that they can go bug those two.
Yeah.
Nor am I in the position where I'm like, oh, if I do another charity stream, they're gonna come in clutch. Like, no, I don't want anybody bothering them unless it's to say, holy shit, you two are amazing. For doing what they did.
Yeah, sort of like when I found out who Hex Hockey was, who was also a big donator in the NHL community for a little while.
Donated $100 to the charity stream as well. Yeah, so
he was basically helping the community out during like a really, really big down spot. And he's a big fan of the community of NHL and content creators. And when I found out who it was, because I had an interaction with them before, I didn't want to tell anybody because I didn't want people to depend on people in a way. If someone's going to do something like this, like a charitable act to help someone out or help out a cause, you should be able to do it anonymously. Or if you want to declare yourself, you should do it on your own way. And I even told him that, I'm like, I don't want people to know because, like, that's the reason why. All he did was tell people about whatever his cause was and what he wanted to do, which was fair. And hats off to everybody for everything. It's been a crazy 24 hours during that span. And it's good for me to learn too, because I'm a brand new NHL creator, or not even NHL, just like a general content creator. And so to surround myself with guys like yourself, Deke, Crash, and guys who've been doing this for a little bit of a while, and learn like the ins and outs and how things work, and getting to experience a big event like this, it helps me look for the future if I want to do stuff like this. So where to go, how to run things, how to make things look proper and professional. Because you did like a lot of the work, and like you said, this was like 2 weeks ago you got positioned about this. I remember a few days ago you were telling us in the Discord how you were nervous, how you were worried about everything, and make sure everything's gonna go right. We're like, we got you, man. You need anything, you got us here. And it's great that you have the guys that help you out with everything like that.
Yeah, and I mean, again, the fact that by the end of this, and I will say, like, those two going head to head. And carrying this in a way did lead to other people also going kind of crazy at the end too, because you just get wrapped up in it. It's ridiculous. We ended up finishing with just under $11,000, which is insane, in roughly 10 hours. Like I said, the community that I have, the community that I've built, I don't need it to be any bigger. I don't even necessarily want it to be any bigger. Like, am I going to be that much happier with a Lambo in the driveway? Not really. I got to be honest. Not really. That's just not the way that I'm wired. It was incredible, man. It was incredible to be able to do that in such a short amount of time. And, like I said, I wasn't necessarily content at half the goal, even though I probably should have been. I do try to be that type of person to look more at what you have instead of what you don't, and $5,000 for charity is still an impactful amount. Like, the people that I was working with on the stream were happy with the $5K. Like, I should have been happy, but I wasn't content with it. We went back, and thank God we did, man. I mean, again, obviously, we ended up hitting our $10,000 goal. I shaved my goddamn head bald, which, could look worse, I think. Again, if I were to go bald, I think I can at least manage this. Boy, was it interesting to have to wear a hat when I had to go shovel the driveway this morning. It's just every sensation is super, super weird. Man, it's been great though, and it was I know, like, mentally I wanted the whole idea of, like, hey, let me shave my goddamn head. Because it's essentially that reminder of, like, hey, you did good. And on top of that, I mean, number one, too, it's what the community wanted.
Yeah.
as the 10K goal. But I talked about it during the stream as well, and it's like, man, there isn't a single person out there who doesn't know what it's like to have their lives affected by cancer. So to raise 10K for the American Cancer Society, it's incredible. And I've talked about it. And I'll always be open about it. And I don't blame anyone who doesn't want to be open with the internet about any type of struggles like this, because it is an incredibly personal thing. But that's why I started on YouTube and Twitch. It's like, hey, if I can make a difference, even with just one person, to be like, oh my God, I'm having a horrible night. Let me watch this guy yell about rosters. Okay, I took my mind off it for a little bit. That's good enough for me.
Right.
You know, I lost my grandfather on my dad's side to pancreatic cancer when I was 5. And you have someone that important to you in your life ripped away at such a young age. Dude, it's 22 years later. I'm still feeling the effects of that.
Right.
You know, you go back and forth between where you're at and your level of acceptance and how much it impacts you. But still, like, that was the catalyst for then a few years later, I almost lost my dad to the effects of Crohn's disease. And that is what really kind of led to, you know, a lot of mental health struggles for me growing up, certainly. I look back, it's been 10 years since I lost one of my aunts on my mom's side to liver cancer. The year after that, granted, she was essentially my aunt as well, not technically related, but she passed away as well due to liver cancer. And it's just one of those things that's like consistently persisted. So for me to be able to do something, anything in relation to trying to make a difference in that regard after, as I've said quite a few times, betting on myself. Like, again, I know I'm not the biggest creator in the world. I don't have to be. You know, I bet on myself 5 or 6 years ago to start trying this. And I never say this stuff to flex. And I get it. Like, some people are going to view it that way because it's the fucking internet, and that's all it seems to be, is a fucking pissing contest between people. It doesn't help when you have fucking douchebag billionaires like Elon Musk flexing on Twitter, like, look at how rich I am. I don't even pay my fucking taxes, and people fucking grovel at his feet. Like, that's the society that we live in. It's all about fucking flexing and showing what you have. But for me, like I said, 5, 6 years ago, I'm between jobs, and I'm like, fuck, what exactly am I going to do? Let me try this shit. And I look at what has happened since, and again, 2 charity streams down, almost $20,000 raised for cancer-related charities. Yeah. I'm in a position that a lot of people would die to be in. Like, I say only, but 13,000 followers on Twitch puts me pretty far up there in the grand scheme of things for the amount of people that actually try to be successful on Twitch.
Yeah, another thing about that,
like,
too.
Legitimately, I can stake claim to, I know the title Game Changer is a bit of a meme in and of itself, but I can literally look at the conversations I have had with that dev team and point directly to changes and features that my input and my community's input has helped lead to. I have had the privilege of getting flown out there and meeting these people. I have had the privilege of getting my name in the credits of the video game that I used to skip school to play. Like I said, I'm at the point where I am paid to do commentary, even if it's esports commentary. Do you know how many fucking people in this scene would love to have the position that I have at NHL Gamer? Like, there isn't anybody within this fucking scene that's like, I want to do commentary, that would turn down the spots that Sin and I have with NHL Gamer. Like, and all of these incredible things, I think I do put this past Saturday. It's just another one of those things that I can look back on, even if I am off YouTube. Say 2022 is my last year on YouTube and Twitch. I don't plan on it being, but say that it is. I get to look back and be like, okay, that chunk of time was worth the time investment. I did not waste that time. I did good with that time and can look back on it positively. And this stream from this past Saturday, and knowing I'm going to have a bald fucking head in the Christmas pictures this year, it's probably number one on the list, man. This weekend was incredible, dude. It was so incredibly personally validating. I am, still just so fucking humbled by the community that I have, the friends that I have. Like, it's all of it. The people that showed up in support, the people who are there day in and day out. Like, it's just, like I said, maybe I'm just super reflective because it's that time of year anyway.
Right.
But just very, very humbled by all of this, and never so happy to have to wear a hat every time I have to leave the house to keep my head warm.
Definitely. It's a lot of reflection, and the one thing that I like to tell people a lot in terms of content creation is when you're first starting out, do it because you like to do it. Don't do it because it pays out the money. Because when you first start, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make any money, if not a little bit of money. I've been doing this for what?
I didn't make anything really. Like, I mean, you want to even talk about I don't know if I got paid in the first year, and then beyond that, like, nothing overly significant to even bank, because that first little bit that you make, you need to reinvest back in it.
Exactly.
Upgrade the mic, upgrade the webcam, upgrade the computer. So it's, I mean, again, to the to the people that do strike gold very, very quickly, bravo. But that is not the that's not the common story.
One thing I like to tell people is that 1% of Twitch streamers on Twitch average more than 20 views. 1% of content creators, actually not even, like 0.01% of content creators on Twitch itself can make it profitable and have basically livable income off of it. There was a list that leaked out, I think, earlier this year that showed like the top 10,000 from a certain, like a 2-year span, and how much they were making just from subs and bits alone. And like the one on the bottom of that list, it was like top 10,000 or whatever. It was like they were making basically $10,000 from like that whole 2-year span. So you average it out to be $5,000 just on subs and bits. Obviously, this doesn't account to donations and all that. That's another thing we don't want to talk about and clarify with. But go into making content because you like it. For example, if you're talking about financials and stuff like that, I've been doing this for 1.5 years, and I'm still in the hole technically with the money that I've made through streaming. I'm very fortunate that I somehow was able to make $100, $200, I think maybe like $400 from streaming, and everything of that's gone back into my setup. I had to buy a new PC. I had to go buy a new graphics card, which I've been yelling about, which my mom yelled about last time on the podcast about trying to get it over in the US, but she didn't understand how the supply chain and how everything goes. That's besides the point. But in terms of making stuff, do it because you're passionate about it. Because the passion will drive you to be more successful. And then when you become successful, then the money will come in. The money should never be the first thing you think of doing anything whatsoever. If you want to make money, you go to school and you become a banker. You want to do anything else like that, you do something like that that'll make you care about money so much. You do that. If you want to be more creative, you can focus on doing your other stuff as well. You can focus on doing stuff that has you stuff like that. But the way I see it personally is I'm not going to drop everything at a hat for Twitch streaming immediately, because there's no way and no how in the first year or two that I've been doing this, I'd be able to make enough money to live off of it. Yeah. Now, don't let that be a dismotivator to do whatever you want, but just do something, put it out. If you're thinking about putting out a video, just shove it out there. You gotta start somewhere, right? There are people who look back at their old videos and they say, you know what? That video might be bad now that I look at it then, but I didn't know much. And that's the big motivator to get out there. Throw something on there. It could stick. You can find someone who says, oh, you know what? I can help you out with this and offer this services right there. Like I reached out to Tougie originally to help him with videos. God, it's been like half a year since I've done a video for you. I'm sorry. But I've been really busy with working on other stuff. But yeah. Just keep it out there. Keep trying. If you have an idea to put out there, just throw it out there. Even if it's like not like professionally done, it doesn't need to be. That's the power of the internet. That's the power of Twitch, especially. You can just go put your webcam in a corner. You don't even have to use a webcam. Just grab a mic connected to your Xbox, stream from the Xbox, do it that way. There's so many accessible ways for content creators to become content creators and put stuff out there. There are some guys who still right now are just streaming from the consoles. Like Tougie hasn't shown his face ever. Ever. And this guy is the top NHL community guy. 100%. He goes live, he gets 1,000 viewers. But he's worked for that craft. Nasher, he's worked for that craft. No Sleeves, yourself, like Henrique, all these guys, they've worked and put their heart on their sleeves and in terms of making content. And it's built up over a while. There are guys who get the super successful off the beginning, off the hop, but that's an abnormality. You're going to have to take a while for it to go through, but don't let anything that we're saying discourage you. Just put something out there, have it go through, and you'll eventually get something going. Promise you.
The conversation's taken a couple different twists and turns. I feel like I've probably said everything that I can say without retreading and repeating.
Yeah. This has turned from Tougie's take to like internet wellness and you.
Right? But yeah, man. No, this weekend was incredible and something that I won't forget. And I mean, again, like, this isn't the point, but someone shared a link, and it's like the Bills raised $40,000 for a charity or something like that, and they're like, you raised a fourth amount of money as the Buffalo Bills. And I'm like, that's not the point. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool in a sense. Like, it's just, man, again, like, it's not, none of it is intended as a pat on the back, self-congratulatory anything. It's just, oh man, I am just very humbled by this past weekend, bald head and all, at what we've been able to do as a community, everybody. So with that, I can't imagine we'll have too much to talk about this particular week. We will have another show, I do believe, up on Thursday, the 23rd. Like I said, we'll talk about the World Juniors there, and we'll see what else happens this week. Again, I can't imagine there'll be too much as things continue to evolve, but we'll be here at the very least, and we'll see what happens heading into next week as well. In regards to, obviously, it's a very busy time for a lot of us. I know Sin probably won't be able to be here for the rest of this week either, as we mentioned, but Endo and I should be here. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. And yeah, Endo, any parting words? I'd say let's get your mom on the phone, but we'd be here until 9 p.m. So let's not.
I want to say thank you to everyone in the community for helping out with the charity stream. It was amazing. Definitely something that I would love to do myself and help out with at any given time. Hopefully with more notice in 2 weeks. But it was a great experience. And yeah, you guys knocked it out of the park. You can find me on social medias, Endo Mills on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. I might go live tonight. I'm actually thinking of doing a little series here where I give chat $100 and I tell them to buy me anything they want. We'll put it in a list. We'll play a game of marbles, and then whatever it lands on, I have to buy that item. Up to $100.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think too, it's funny. I'd been talking with one Mr. Crash Andrews in regards to what are we going to do with the Hunt for Rumble, because Crash normally sponsors the celebratory confetti cannon. I wasn't actually able to find the confetti cannon, so we have the Crash Andrews bowl of confetti that went unused because we didn't pack Rumble's card on Saturday. So we might even do the type of thing where I'm going to keep the giveaway going. In that, hey, say someone's like, hey, here's $5, open up packs on Hut. If we pack Rumble with those $5, they'll send you a jersey. That type of thing. Because the hunt's still on. The hunt doesn't end until we get the most elusive card in Ultimate Team. So, hey, maybe we'll make things work still. And God, again, I have a Hut series coming up. I'd kind of like to pack Chris's card to use on the Hut series as like the team captain throughout the journey. So hopefully we can get him sooner rather than later. But we'll find out. Endo, it was fun. Thank you for being here, of course. And everybody, again, we'll see you this Thursday. Twitch.tv/EndoMills, ENDO Mills. You can find him on Twitter, everywhere. I am at Tougie24, everywhere. We will see you later on this week. I am going to go put a hat on because it's cold. Goodbye.